Okay, this is going to be my picks and thoughts on the Royal Rumble coming up this weekend, which is going to be in Indianapolis. So looking forward to it. Really excited because I think there's definitely a lot of directions that they can go. They've definitely teased a lot of potential matchups, heading into the Rumble. So, in terms of the order of the card, I think it's an easy. It's an easy call here. You just have the men go first, and then I think you live with the results, for the rest of the show. I would actually have the Motor City Machine Guns follow the men's Rumble, and then you do the women's Rumble, and then I think Cody and Kevin, because it's a ladder match, because you have two championships, I think this is a rare occasion where, the championship match can go last. But with the men's Royal Rumble, it's very interesting. There's like 4 or 5 guys that can, easily win this thing that are very convincing. A lot of times over the past couple of years, it's sometimes it's like a 2-man show. It's either one guy or the other, but there's like 4 or 5 different guys I think that they can sell you on winning this year, and they've teased a lot of, good matchups so far. But yeah, I think it's CM Punk's Royal Rumble to win. I think this is it. I mean, we know how bad he wants to main event WrestleMania. And, there's a lot of, I think the sexy matchup for me is CM Punk and Cody. I think it needs to happen. I think there's so much history there going back to, OVW to AEW. And really, I think that the biggest reason, one of the biggest reasons, maybe the most underrated reason why Punk didn't work in AEW, I think the crack started to happen when Cody left. And so, yeah, I think it's a great matchup. It's a fresh matchup. I think anytime these two guys have, cut promos on each other on the mic, it's been gold. So I would love to see it. They teased it, but just because they tease it, it doesn't mean that it's going to happen. So we'll see. The Punk Royal Rumble win, it's almost like I'll believe it when I see it type of feel to it, because, obviously the injury happened last year, and, it's a mountain he's never been able to climb because of The Rock or whatever the case may be. But I think it should probably happen this year. I think Punk has gotten everybody's good graces, at least on the WWE side, in terms of Triple H and everything. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's a good matchup. Punk and Cody. The Punk Gunther matchup, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's. I think it's a little bit rough in terms of the actual match and the actual build right there. I mean, eventually, I think it'll be a cool matchup, but for WrestleMania, I think the Punk and Cody matchup's a little bit more, refreshing. Who's the other guy? All right, Roman Reigns. So I think if Roman wins the Rumble, I don't think it would shock anybody. I mean, it's a possibility. It really looks like Roman and Drew McIntyre, could be a big money feud at WrestleMania, not for the championship. Drew made a good point about how he's the the father of the bloodline, because it opened the door for Brock to move away from Heyman. So that definitely does make sense. But Roman winning the Rumble, I can see it happening. I think the Roman and Gunther match is really fresh. And if Roman does win the Rumble, that's a big money match that, you would love to see happen. But, Roman always talks about Cody's belt like it's his belt. So, yeah, I mean, you would think he would still want to go after Cody. And, yeah, because of Cody and Roman's history at WrestleMania the last couple of years, it wouldn't surprise me if they go back to it. I think it would be shocking. But still, it's been so good the last couple of years that you still would want to see that third match somewhere down the line. So Roman's a possibility. So we got Punk, we got Roman, we got Drew McIntyre. So if Drew McIntyre does win, I think Drew and Cody is a fresh matchup. I think Drew and Gunther is also a fresh matchup. But, Drew's already won before. He's a heel right now. I think that will be really shocking if it does happen. But hey, a lot of people think Drew was the MVP last year. He's definitely got a lot better on the mic. And, he's been able to kind of maintain his physique and his ring skills over the last couple of years. So that's definitely a possibility. So we got Punk, Roman, Drew, we got John Cena. All right, so let me just say this. I think the Cena thing, because of the way it was presented on Netflix, it kind of felt like, oh, okay, Cena has to win the Royal Rumble. And plus, they're probably going to go back to the 17-time thing to sell you on that. So, it could definitely happen. But I think because Cena has this whole year, he mentioned December, so it could happen anytime. It doesn't have to happen at WrestleMania. So it's definitely a possibility. I don't know. I kind of see Cena like getting into a fight with somebody, and maybe it's Logan Paul. I see that being a little bit more realistic for Cena this year to face, more of a part-timer or a celebrity like Logan Paul. I think that's a little bit more appropriate. I think it's a little bit of a tough sell to ask John to carry that burden of building up a championship match, but it could happen. I think Cena and Cody, they definitely have to go to it at least before the end of the year. And then I think Cena and Gunther is definitely a great matchup. I think Cena is really good at working with, the larger than life, bigger guys. It definitely have like a David versus Goliath feel. So Cena and Gunther is definitely a hell of a matchup. So it could happen. I wouldn't rule it out. You never know with Cena, but like it's not the first time that Cena's been promoted to return at a Rumble. I mean, it's happened plenty of times where he, comes up short. So it could happen again. I think the whole Netflix thing, him being on that first Netflix, it kind of made it feel like, oh, okay, it has to happen. But I'll tell you, man, if Cena takes another like WrestleMania main event away from Punk, I'm sure he's gonna freak out over it. So who are we forgetting here? The Sami Zayn thing is really interesting. I just find it highly realistic. And this what leads me to believe that is going last. Because Kevin mentioned, I'll help you win the Royal Rumble, and then you come help me win the ladder match. I think if there's a situation, I think the realistic thing is for Sami to end up costing Kevin the match, and then they have like a non-title match at WrestleMania. I think that's a little bit more realistic. But, Sami and Kevin for the championship at WrestleMania, it feels like that's what it needs if they ever go back to that again. But we'll see what happens there. Am I leaving anyone out that's in contention to win the Royal Rumble? Logan Paul, I think Logan is highly unlikely, but he'll definitely be involved in something big. Seth Rollins, Seth and Gunther cut a promo together. So, the Seth Gunther dynamic, I just think there's better options. This really feels to me like Seth is going to be taken out of the championship picture at WrestleMania. It really does. And it should be really interesting to see if Seth and Punk are kind of done. It feels like they're kind of moving away from that. I'm just a little bit surprised at how quickly it feels like they're moving away from Seth and Punk. But at the Rumble, you never know. You could kind of reunite feuds or rekindle feuds. So that's a possibility. Seth Rollins and Cody at WrestleMania. They've had their trilogy before, which ended in Hell in a Cell where Cody got hurt. But they never really faced for the championship. I think it's a possibility. I just think highly unlikely. I just think there's better combinations that people want to see right now. And they teased that last year as well. You thought maybe, Cody was going to take a backseat to The Rock, and then it was going to be Cody and Seth, for the world title. The Rock has not been announced. I think that first Netflix show, I think you were under the impression that, Rock was going to make an announcement or start feuding with somebody. I mean, the way this is set up is that Rock isn't really going to do anything at the Rumble. But hey, who knows? Maybe they wanted to go for that big surprise. But, we've been contemplating Rock coming back at the Rumble for years. And yeah, he hasn't been in a Royal Rumble since, I want to say maybe 2001. Was that the Rock's last Royal Rumble? I mean, he's had championship matches against Jericho, against Punk. But yeah, I mean, the idea of Rock actually being in a Rumble, it's been talked about for years, but it's never happened. And they gave you no indication that it's going to happen this year. But yeah, there should be some nice surprises. I think you'll definitely see Joe Hendry from TNA and a lot of other stuff. I definitely see Cody, beating Kevin. It's funny. Kevin has really, when you add up these Royal Rumble title matches, and if you consider them main events, Kevin Owens might have main evented the Royal Rumble more than anybody. And even if he does go last, like there's only a few guys that have main evented Royal Rumble last in a championship match. I think Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, and God, I want to say The Rock. You put Rock in that category, but yeah, I think even Kevin would have a one-up on The Rock. So yeah, I think he would tie at least Taker or Michaels for the most times main eventing the Royal Rumble. And if you count the championship matches, we're talking about Kevin Owens in the championship match at the Rumble, maybe 4 or 5 times, and only a handful of guys have ever done that. So the match should be incredible, though. I think Kevin is good. Kevin is great in these matches as he always is. It should be exciting. I'm just saying, highly unlikely that Kevin Owens goes into WrestleMania as the champion. But if he does, the best option would be to have Punk and Kevin Owens, which is at the top of the list of a match that I would love to see. I just think those two guys are made for each other for a feud. But yeah, I think the idea of Cody and Punk, I think that's the best option. And sometimes when they tease something, they're just teasing it. But it's funny, man. They relied on them for the go home show last year, and they're doing the same thing this year. So that's pretty funny. But yeah, I would be really surprised if Punk doesn't win it. I just think his delivery, he seems like he's motivated, and it does seem like he's back in the good graces of the people that are important in the WWE. So it should be really interesting, man. This feels like the most excited people have been for the Royal Rumble in a long time, and I definitely think it'll come off a lot better than last year. It seems like every other year they kind of fumble it. 2022 was a nightmare. 2024, the show just didn't work for a lot of different reasons, whether it's the Punk injury or just burning out the crowd. But I think this year, I think it's going to be a great show. I think they're well aware of how important it is to structure this thing, and you just have the star power, you have the talent, and I'm not going to say it's the most unpredictable Rumble ever, because I will be a little bit surprised that if Punk doesn't win it here. But hey, the other thing is at Elimination Chamber, you always have the Elimination Chamber option. So if they want to make the Rumble unpredictable, you could always, kind of rectify it or solve the issue at Elimination Chamber, just have the right guys in it. So if gun to my head, I'm just going to say this. I think Punk is going to win. He's going to challenge Cody at WrestleMania. Plus the whole Netflix thing. It's funny because Cody is on SmackDown, but still, like, Cody's still like on the poster for Netflix, like for the main Netflix thing. So I always thought that was kind of funny. But the other match, I would say, I think Gunther and Cena. I think Gunther and Cena is definitely an attractive matchup. Would you go with Gunther and Cena or Gunther and Roman? That's a tough one. I might have to say Gunther and Cena. I'd rather see Roman take on Drew, because this whole thing with Drew being bitter at the bloodline, like, this could be a nice way to kind of blow it off. Just have Drew and Roman away from the championship. You don't need to have Roman in the championship match every single year. So yeah, man, I'll just end it right there. I hope you guys enjoyed I hope everybody enjoys the Royal Rumble. I know this Royal Rumble season, in terms of the classic reviews, it wasn't a good mix. 2011, 2012, 2019, 2020. I'm not going to say they were the worst Rumbles ever. They just, at this point, they just weren't that interesting to talk about. But I'll just end it right there.